Babies burnt alive, some shot point blank in their cradles in the dead hours of one of the darkest nights in Israel's history. Countless other newborns are being held hostage. One dreads to think what deprivations are being heaped on them by Hamas in the name of Azadi, liberation, freedom, anti-colonialism, and whatnot. What possible score would the Hamas have to settle with these infants? What was their fault, viewers? Except perhaps that they were born as Jews to families in Israel. In this veritable New Age slaughter of the innocents, we must not lose sight of the one clear, uncontestable fact. Hamas kills Jews because they are Jews. To be even more precise, Hamas kills Jews living in a nation that Islamists believe has no right to exist. I'm not saying it. Just pick up a copy of the Hamas Charter and acquaint yourself with Israelophobia. Not just, viewers, the hate of Semites, but Israelophobia. This disease, as author Jake Wallace Simons writes, the newest version of the oldest hatred. In the face of the raw visual evidence that you see on your screens, of desecration, of violence, of killing of innocents, the visual evidence of Hamas's brutalization of Israeli innocents, the Western world is standing unflinchingly with Tel Aviv. Even Prime Minister Modi reiterated his resolve today once again to unconditionally root out terror anywhere around the world, lamenting that some were divided on pursuing this objective. Listen in.
भारत ऐसी अनेकों आतंकी वारदातों से निपटते हुए आज यहां पहुंचा है। अब दुनिया को भी एहसास हो रहा है कि टेररिज्म दुनिया के लिए कितनी बड़ी चुनौती है। टेररिज्म चाहे कहीं भी होता हो, किसी भी कारण से होता हो, किसी भी रूप में होता है, लेकिन वो मानवता के विरुद्ध होता है। ऐसे में टेररिज्म को लेकर हम सभी को लगातार सख्ती बरतनी ही होगी। टेररिज्म की परिभाषा को लेकर आम सहमति ना बन पाना, ये बहुत दुखद है। आज भी यूनाइटेड नेशंस में इंटरनेशनल कन्वेंशन ऑन कॉम्बैटिंग टेररिज्म कॉन्सेंसस का इंतजार कर रहा है। दुनिया के इसी रवैये का फायदा मानवता के दुश्मन उठा रहे हैं। दुनिया भर की पार्लियामेंट्स को, रिप्रेजेंटेटिव्स को ये सोचना होगा कि टेररिज्म के विरुद्ध इस लड़ाई में हम कैसे मिलकर काम कर सके।
But some just don't seem to get it. The left blitzkrieg agitprop is busy shaming Israel from Hyderabad to Harvard. Can you imagine? Victim shaming reads a bit like this extract from the Harvard University Palestine Solidarity Group statement. It says, and I quote, "We, the undersigned student organizations, hold the Israeli regime entirely responsible for all the unfolding violence," unquote. Can you imagine, viewers, the ideological blinkers, the size of those blinkers on these people's eyes and on their conscience? Nonetheless, listen to some of these people.
A clear bias in the communication that we received from the president of the university, without a single mention of the lives lost of Palestinians. Clearly, we're all against violence, but we're just asking for the lives of Palestinian civilians to be acknowledged as well. As the leader of a diverse community, I think it's fair to expect the leadership of the university to acknowledge the pain of all students.
You come here with an Israeli flag, you are provoking the public. It was intentional. It's like what they've been doing all the time. So he got exactly what he deserved. In fact, he got off lightly.
I did more and more research, and I came to the conclusion that not only have I been lied to and spreading lies myself, but my religion was being used to undermine the rights of the Palestinian people. And the belief in God that so many people have is being used against them, is being weaponized against the Palestinian people.
But this victimization of the victim is thoroughly undeserved. There is no moral equivalence to be drawn between the long-suffering but Hamas-supporting Palestinians of Gaza and the state of Israel. Not doctrinally and certainly not in the present context. Among the accusations against Israel is that it is an occupation of Gaza. But this isn't the case, viewers. In 1993, Israel recognized the sovereignty of the Palestinian Authority over the West Bank and Gaza Strip in the fabled Oslo Accords. Yes, Israel could have done a lot more to uphold the spirit of the Accords. But it is also true that the Palestinians didn't do themselves any favors by accusing their then leader Yasser Arafat of a sellout. The smear campaign, rooted in a turf war, cut the ground from under Arafat's feet. The leader responded by walking away from the Accords. Israelis offered several more concessions since then, but the Palestinians chose Hamas over the olive branches. Those willing to accept the truth will note that even the most visible symbol of supposed racial segregation, the so-called apartheid wall, was birthed out of necessity. Before the separation barrier came up along the West Bank, Israel was bled by almost weekly suicide attacks. Each of the tightly wound up incendiaries of holy war were undoubtedly promised dollops of ethereal salvation by the Israelophobic Hamas. What was it supposed to do? Turn the other cheek and walk quietly along the road to perdition? Viewers, think about it. That wall is a protection against nihilists. Palestinian anti-Semitism is not just political, it is doctrinal. If this hadn't been the case, Palestinians would have condemned attacks on Israeli citizens by now. Worse, the Muslim world has enabled the genocidal Hamas by supporting and funding it. The question is then, are many nations in the Middle East complicit in the murder of innocent Israelis? Now here are some hard facts, viewers. They speak for you and they speak for the truth. And I always, viewers, bring up the hard facts so that we can situate and locate this debate in the right context. And in the context of what has transpired, unfortunately, viewers, where innocents have been shot in their cribs, little babies in their cribs, this is definitely in any book a terror attack. And Israel cannot be victim shamed. But let me take you through the hard facts, viewers, because these are important. When I say that the Hamas gets support, let's look at the facts. Qatar, reportedly Hamas's largest financial patron. Hamas leaders reportedly are based in Qatar. Ismail Haniyeh reportedly lives in Doha. Why does Qatar give an individual or a group of individuals belonging to the Hamas that believe in the total annihilation of every Jew safe passage? Can't understand this. Iran is accused of providing financial support to Hamas. Of course, it rejects those allegations. But many people have come up with evidence. Reportedly supplies rockets and arms to Hamas. Turkey reportedly shelters top Hamas operatives. Again, it refutes these allegations. It's accused of providing funds and political support. Erdogan has called Hamas a political party, viewers. Which political party in the world would say that those we oppose should be killed, should be exterminated? Think about that, viewers. Saudi Arabia reportedly funded 50% of Hamas budget in the 2000s. Again, if you ask the Saudis, they'll reject it. They'll reject this allegation. Accused of funding Hamas ops from 2000 to 2004. Gradually reduced support due to scrutiny post 9/11. Syria, another country. Hamas restored ties with Syria in 2022, very publicly. Though reportedly brokered by Tehran and Hezbollah. Hamas is set to now reopen an office in Damascus. Again, viewers, why would you want to even house the offices of an organization that is committed to the destruction of every Jew anywhere in the world and points to the Hadith to say that we are ordained to do so? If you just read the Hamas charter, you won't need to say much more. Let me open this up.
Hello, Moto.
Topic tonight, viewers, Israel's 9/11 nightmare, Muslim world complicit. Brought to you by Moto G. You can even watch us on this. Let me open this up, viewers, very quickly to all our guests. And I want to first begin with India Naftali, a journalist whose husband is a leading Israeli media personality and he is serving his country at the front lines. First of all, I wish your husband well. He's doing his patriotic duty and I hope he comes away unscathed. India Naftali, I just want to ask you a couple of questions because there are protests now breaking out all around the world. Harvard, Columbia, Hyderabad, Aligarh, New York, London, Sydney, Toronto, and they say Israel is to blame. How do you respond to these people?
My question is, for example, in Switzerland, pro-Hamas Palestinian protesters stole a police car and started riding around the city, attempting to hit citizens in buildings. And I asked them, how does this help, as they say, free Palestine? How is creating terror and chaos and massacring people, how does this help their cause? I think it's a shame for these people to continue to support this. And I think that, on the bright side, the world is finally seeing what Israel is up against. Now, there are groups of people going to support Israel and, they're going against Israel and saying that Israel is, as they like to say, occupation. But I think more and more now, the world is seeing, as you
having a few problems with that line with India Naftali. We'll get back to you. Yes, India Naftali, your line was a bit unclear. You were making a point. Could you repeat it, please?
Of course. I think out of this horrible tragedy, the one thing that has changed is the world's mind. How we do see these protests on campuses around the world, but on the other hand, the world finally is seeing what Israel is up against. For too long, the world has blamed Israel for war crimes, claimed that Israel is occupying Palestine, but finally, we have proof of what they are wanting, of what from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free means. And it means the massacre and annihilation of the Jewish people. And not only that, they're calling for a jihad uprising around the world today, Friday the 13th.
Let me also ask you another question which comes up in every debate that we do. They say that Israel has turned Gaza into an open prison, that it restricts the rights of ordinary Palestine people. You push them into supporting the Hamas. You created the Hamas. This is what is said. How do you respond to that lot of people?
Well, let's talk about Egypt. Why doesn't Egypt open its border if they're all brothers in the Arab world? Why doesn't Egypt open its border? It's because they know that Hamas will go across the border and slaughter their own people. Egypt had 2 revolutions in the past decade, and they don't want another one from the Palestinians.
India Naftali, one more question to you. These are very, very difficult times. Israel has told a large number of people living in Gaza to vacate, to leave. Now, where can so many hundreds and thousands of people suddenly go? How can that happen? Do you think that this bombing campaign in Gaza is indiscriminate? It is also hurting innocent Palestinians?
No, because let me explain. On these leaflets, so basically the IDF is dropping leaflets explaining exactly where they're going to strike. on these leaflets, you can see a map of the Gaza Strip, and it is split into the north and the south. The IDF has explained in these leaflets that they are specifically targeting the north, and they have told the Palestinians living in the Gaza Strip to vacate to the south. So they do have a place to vacate because Israel is aware that they don't have a place to go. So they are not fully attacking indiscriminately the whole land.
India Naftali, thank you for speaking to me, putting things in perspective. We'll let you go. We'll open this up further. I want to bring in Ruth Mehta Horowitz, Dr. Anand Ranganathan also here with us. It's a difficult subject today because there is a binary being drawn, Dr. Ranganathan, also in this show. And many people will accuse me of being completely one-sided, insensitive. You've been here when that has happened, but I'll come back to that. Let's speak with Ruth Horowitz. Ruth Mehta Horowitz, you've just landed this morning in one of the flights to repatriate Indian citizens and others who wanted to come back to India. Glad to see that you're out of that horrible situation that Israelis found themselves in. But I'm sure your prayers and your heart must still be with some of your friends, your neighbors, etc., and you must be worried about their well-being. What was it like over the last few days as you lived in peril?
Hello, Rahul. I'd like to first thank you very much for the analysis up to now. My name is Savitri, Ruth Mehta Horowitz. I'm an Israeli citizen, and I've been lived in Israel for 40 years. I am the daughter of an Indian Army officer, and I am Jewish and an Israeli citizen and an overseas citizen of India. I did not come in this morning. I arrived on Monday. Right. I was on Ethiopian Airlines flight with the Air India crew. As you can imagine, I am absolutely heartbroken and devastated. I was there on Saturday morning in Jerusalem in my home. I live in Jerusalem. I've lived there for 40 years. And sirens started between, say, 9:30 and 12. We ran to our shelters at least 7 times in Jerusalem. And then we started hearing about what was going on in the south. I think it's, if I may, if you don't mind, address some of the questions that you asked our last speaker. Of course. Since I'm originally Indian and can address it, I think people in India need to understand that there are 120,000 Indian Jews in Israel. You are evacuating Indian citizens, and that what you should do, that's great. But amongst the rest of the Israeli population, we are 120,000 Indian Jews. Indian Jews who love India, who feel very close to India, were very welcome in India, communities that go back 3,000 years in India, 2,000 years in India, and even newer people, and are absolutely dedicated to India. So need to remember that. I think your viewers also need to remember the population of Israel is approximately 9 million, out of which 20% is an Arab population. We're not all Jews. We have an Arab population out of which the majority are Muslims. We have Druze. We have amongst our populations, Jewish people have come from 110 different countries. We have Bedouin. We have Christians. The missiles and the attacks that are being sent to Israel don't have any labels saying for Jews only. So when you target Israel, we are together as one people. Arabs, Palestinian, Druze, Jews, Christians. And you are targeting all of us, not just the Jewish population. And I think the world needs to know that. I would also like to address the people who genuinely feel for the Palestinian people. It usually takes about 2 days of missiles that come from Gaza to mobilize about 30,000 people, if not more, in Europe, in England, as you have pointed out, and with banners of stop the occupation, stop the war, kill the Jews, burn Israeli flags, American flags, or whatever you want. However, when Syria was in war with one another, killing Muslim, where were all these people? And if all of these people are genuinely interested in the the safety and the goodwill of the Palestinian people, I'm afraid you all have been impotent for the last 75 years because you have achieved nothing. What you need to do and what is the need of the hour right now is the Palestinian people who are sitting in Gaza and in the West Bank. It is the people who, they don't need your slogans, they don't need your talk, they need to be evacuated. I would like to know, where is the Arab League, where is Egypt, where are Islamic Aid, where are all these people, where are they? They need to get the people out. And you telling me if Israel is bombing, okay, the devastation that you see, surely there should be more than 2,000 people dead if that kind of devastation is going on. There should be 30, 40,000 from what you're saying. What is obvious, if one cares to analyze, is that they are empty buildings and the people have been told to leave.
Okay.
Now, they should leave towards the border with the Islamic country of Egypt. I, as a normal human being, can tell you what to do. Get some buses. You've got Dahab, you've got Sharm el-Sheikh, you've got Nueva, you've got hotels over there. Get some cruise ships and get the people out. And yet you have Hamas telling the people not to go. On top of that, you've got the Palestinian Authority leader saying don't go because it's a Nakba.
Let me get in Sarbaz Ruhula and Dr. Anand Ranganathan. We are also being joined by Fleur Hassan Nahum. I think these are important points that have been made by Ruth Mehta Horowitz tonight. Let me first go across to the Palestinian supporter.
Excuse me, sir.
Sarbaz Ruhula.
I'm not sure that I will be able to continue.
Yeah, I'm coming to you.
I will be able to continue as I have to rush. I'm just
Sarbaz
in a
Ruhula,
critical situation.
can I ask you a question?
Yes, please.
Isn't the Muslim world's... Mr. Ruhula, can you hear me? I'm asking you a question straight off.
Yes.
Isn't the Muslim world's support for Hamas morally indefensible? Should the Muslim world today cut their ties to Hamas totally and denounce Hamas and come out and say that we do not recognize it? Should not ordinary Palestinians everywhere around the world come out and say Hamas is a war criminal organization? Simple question, sir.
I am just coming from a gathering in the central Beirut, where different Lebanese people from different fractions and different religious and ethnic backgrounds all together get together, and they were supporting Hamas. Christians are supporting Hamas. Not only Muslims, all the Christians of Palestine are currently supporting Hamas. All the people of region, and this is something that you have to keep in your mind, that you should not change the story. This is not about Hamas, this is about Palestinians. And today, the freedom fighters of Hamas are supported by all the Palestinians. This may have not been the case 2 months ago, this may not have been the case 1 year ago, but currently, now what I'm talking to you, and I'm just giving on ground updates, that all people, Christians, even Jews in Western countries, even Muslims, Arabs and non-Arabs, they are all supporting Hamas. This is one point. Second is that, unfortunately, media is not giving a proper coverage to what's taking place. All media is concentrating on unprovoked attack of Hamas on the Israelis. That is not the case. More than 200 Palestinian people have been killed since the beginning of 2023 up till 7th of October. These massacres took place before the latest encounter that took place. More than 2,600 Palestinians have been in detention centers. So Gaza has been in detention. Gaza has been under critical humanitarian condition. Don't forget, when I'm talking to you, currently numbers are talking. 500 Palestinian children have died because of the attacks of Israel. This is crystal clear. Your media, CNN, reported falsely about massacres and beheading of the kids during the attack of the Palestinian fighters. That came to know that was false, that was a wrong, that was a false flag. We have not forgotten what took place in Iraq war. We have not forgotten the testimony of Nayir, the daughter of the Kuwaiti ambassador in United States of America, when he talked about incubators and the kids being taken out from the incubators. That came to know, we all know that was all lies of American propaganda machine to attack to Iraq. Same policies are being followed by, unfortunately, I'm really unfortunate to say that CNN and other mainstream media around the world. You are taking the one side story. The other side is that This is really a shameful statement that you officially are talking about ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people and telling that they have to evacuate Gaza. Gaza is a part of Palestine. Gaza has been a part of Palestine, and people living over there are Palestinians. 75% of the Palestinian people in Gaza are refugees from other parts of Gaza. When they entered the neighboring areas of Gaza, they were the Palestinians deprived from homelands. They tried to return. No one is supporting violence. No one believes that violence could be opposed.
But you yourself are saying, Mr. Ruhullah, bear with me, sir. Look, you're very impassioned, and that's understandable. That's understandable. But I just want to say one thing to you, Mr. Ruhullah.
About Muslims, and I told you that the Christians are now supporting Hamas.
Can I say
Christians
something?
are now supporting the Palestinians.
Yes, some of the Christians were also Nazis, if you remember, and they did butcher Jews, 6 million of them in concentration camps. So that's not a certificate of any sort. But let me ask you, Mr. Ruhullah, a small question.
This is the same story.
At least we are on. Excuse me.
The ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people have been justified.
If you allow me.
This is the same story.
I didn't interrupt you.
The Holocaust is the story based on which the Palestinians have been deprived
Mr. Ruhullah,
from
I
their
didn't
land.
interrupt you. Can you please look? You said that CNN doesn't give both sides of the story. Well, you're on our channel and you've been speaking for 8 minutes and 43 seconds to be precise. So it shows that we are committed.
I did not say that. I said you are selling misinformation and wrong information.
One second.
Clear about
I just want to ask you a question. Do you believe, Mr. Ruhullah,
by Palestinian fighters, which was a false?
Do you believe, Mr. Ruhullah? Okay, counter question, sir. Please bear with me. Do you believe, Mr. Ruhullah, that Hamas was elected to govern Gaza, number one, by Palestinian people, number two, that it is actually a terror organization, number three, that in its own charter it promises to annihilate all Jews? Do you agree with all of these three questions?
I disagree. Meanwhile, this is the Zionist regime and the Israelis who have not even cleared their boundaries. Can I tell you?
No, one second. I asked you three questions. You haven't answered my three questions, Mr. Ruhullah. Please answer my three questions. First question, do you believe Hamas is a terror organization?
No, of course. This is not me who have to decide about that. This is the Palestinian.
Okay, Mr. Sarbaz Ruhullah, his connection has frozen. Dr. Anand Ranganathan, what do you make of this? An individual stands up from Lebanon and says that Hamas is not a terror organization. We also have with us Flair Hassan Nahum and Mushair El Farah, who is also a political activist. He also stands up for Palestinian rights. Dr. Ranganathan. I can't hear you, Dr. Ranganathan. Yeah, you might be mute. Yes, I can hear you now. Go ahead. Yes.
Rahul, I'm just astonished and I admire you, as well as, this channel, for airing what surely would be a budding terrorist, if not, he already is. These were shocking views of this gentleman who refuses to call Hamas a terror organization. He's saying you are just accusing you of showing one side. He's saying, why aren't you showing the other side? Well, whoever this guy is, what is the other side of a month-old baby being burnt and beheaded alive in its crib? What is the other side of a pregnant woman violated and ripped open, umbilical cord still seen? What is the other side of a grandfather saying he is happy that his little grandchild was shot straight up by Palestinians because she was spared torture and rape? Rahul, what is the other side of genocide? There is no other side. To look for the other side, to rationalize this barbarism, is to lose one's sense of morality, Rahul, one's humanity itself. But we've seen it all before, haven't we, Rahul? You have seen it all before. You have suffered it all before. When people ask you, what was the other side of 23 unsuspecting Kashmiri Hindus being lined up and shot point blank? When they asked you, what was the other side of Girija Tikku, who was raped and cleaved in two by a mechanical saw while she was alive? When they asked you, what was the other side of BK Ganju, who hid inside a rice barrel when jihadis came looking for him after his Muslim neighbor informed on him? Ganju was shot dead. Rice laced with his blood was fed to his wife. They asked you to show the other side. When slogans were raised from mosques on 19 Jan, Ralif, Salif, Galif, They asked you. They asked you, death to kafirs, Pandits, leave your women behind, Nizam-e-Mustafa. Rahul, there is no other side of genocide. There is no other side of a Holocaust. You think the Hamas charter, that the day of judgment will not come until Muslims fight Jews and kill them all, took birth only in 1988? There is Islamic sanction to kill, abuse, persecute Jews, and unless we address this, the hatred is not going to go away. Just like they try and tell you that your genocide, Rahul, the genocide of Kashmiri Hindus has got nothing to do with religion. Let me then quote verbatim Gilani, their hero. Quote, India is a bigger enemy of Islam and Muslims than even Israel. Muslims are a qawm wholly separate from the Hindus. The basis of their unity is Islam and Islam alone. Accession to India would result in the Kashmiri Muslims having to live perpetually under Hindu slavery. Kashmir must become an Islamic state, unquote. You still believe these are land issues? Finally, Rahul, some call Gaza a prison. I want to ask them, does a prison have 3 walls or 4 walls? Because Gaza has 3 walls. The 4th wall is absent because Gaza shares a border with the Islamic nation Egypt. So I ask you, why haven't Egypt or any other Muslim nations come out to help Gazans, open their borders, let the Gazans come to Egypt? Why haven't they done it? And have you ever wondered that a small sliver of land surrounded by the richest, the wealthiest nations in the world, the Arab states, billions, trillions at their disposal, remains the poorest when the same nations have converted deserts into Dubai? And yet, Gaza remains the filthiest, sickest, most dangerous place in the world. You know why? Because they want to keep playing the victim card. Just like after they start the violence, kill Jews, babies, children, women, men, grandparents, they march down their dead, killed in retaliatory Israeli action to show the world that Israel is the oppressor. They project Gaza as a prison and gutter because they want to keep on blaming Israel. They want to keep on saying that Israel has made it so. They care more about denigrating and embarrassing Israel than about developing Palestine, Rahul. That is the harsh truth.
Let me bring in Mushair El Farah, political activist and author, to respond to Dr. Ranganathan and also what Ruth Mehta Horowitz have said. Mushair El Farah, please respond to Dr. Ranganathan.
Simply that, sorry, I can't remember his name, but the doctor who just spoke repeated lies through his teeth, like any Zionist speaker. All what he talked about, beheading babies, is false. It hasn't been proven. It's not been proven. We're waiting for any case to be given to us. Secondly, cutting umbilical cords, rape of women, all these are lies which have been proven lies. Of course, as a human being, I condemn the killing of any civilians on any side of any conflict, of any aggression like the Israelis. But let me remind you of something. The civilians, the Israeli civilians and the Palestinian civilians who are being killed are both victims of the Israeli army. 75 years of continuous disposition, continuous war crimes against us, continuous attacks on every aspect of our life, continuous attacks on our liberties. I just came from the streets, from al-Bashiti families, where they pulled 10 bodies from the rubble of a house, including 5 children. Those are people. Those have prices. Their price tag, the price tag on their lives should be the same as an Israeli or American or Indian or anybody. We believe in humanity, but for this doctor to repeat lies, I'm really appalled. And the way he speaks with false passion to try to ignite lies against the Palestinians. And for his information, the border with Egypt is under Israeli control under the 1979 agreement, Camp David agreement. So to say Egypt can open it, period, is a major mistake. I'm really appalled at what he said. He doesn't understand the situation, the genocide that has been happening. Let me just tell you, they just threw leaflets from aeroplanes ordering the entire population of the north of the Gaza Strip and big parts of Gaza to move to my town in the south, Khan Yunis. Thousands are in the streets. People in their houses were ordered out. Power cut is imposed. Water cut is imposed. Resources are cut. Everything. This is a crime against humanity. And this doctor, all what he can say,
I'll get the doctor to respond to you. Since you're making charges against him, I'll get him to respond to you, Mr. El Farah. Okay, the doctor wants to respond to you, El Farah.
I mean, to be honest, ask him to improve his English because I couldn't understand much.
No, let's not try to. Now, let's not suggest that people can't speak English, etc. That's being classist, and that's not being fair. It's being racist. Let me just bring in Dr. Ranganathan. Dr. Ranganathan, he's accusing you of lying on national TV.
Rahul, I have a very simple question to ask this budding terrorist or terror apologist. Is Hamas a terror organization? Does the Hamas charter ask for Muslims to kill Jews? Answer it.
This question. It's not about Hamas at all.
Stop
It's
blabbering.
not about Hamas. Did you vote for Hamas, Mr. El Farah?
Stop blabbering, whatever your name is. Just answer. Is Hamas a terror organization or not?
So your political
Why don't you answer
agenda
this question? Now he won't answer.
From what's happening now.
I've seen it all before, Rahul.
We learn humanity. Learn to be human instead of...
Okay, you talk about humanity, Mr. El Farah.
Just read out the Hamas charter to him.
Mr. El Farah, you talk about humanity. Can I ask you a question? Do you believe that Hamas carried out a terror attack on Israel when it crossed the border, when about 200 Hamas soldiers, according to the IDF, crossed the border? You have visuals of them taking people away.
1,500. Actually, 1,500.
Okay.
I will not be wrong.
Do you think that was an act of terror?
We are the oppressed. I am not Hamas.
We are the oppressed.
Viewers,
it's so easy to expose
viewers, Mr. El Farah is not being fair. He says that I condemn the death of innocents, but he doesn't condemn those that carried out.
Let me answer the question.
Please answer the question. When I've asked you, do you believe that the Hamas was right in crossing the border and murdering innocents?
He possibly thinks Osama bin Laden also is not a terrorist. He thinks Osama is also not a
terrorist. You have
terrorist.
an agenda, sir, Mr. Doctor.
No, but answer the question, Mr. El Farah. Okay, let me bring in.
And he's lying about it.
Let me bring in Fleur Hassan Nahum. Okay, 1 second. Let me bring in Fleur Hassan Nahum, Deputy Mayor of Jerusalem. She's in charge of foreign relations and international economic development and tourism in that district. Fleur Hassan Nahum, you've heard a very excitable Mr. Rahula, who is accusing everyone else of lying. He's not answering a basic question, whether Hamas is a terrorist organization or not. Hamas apparently left ISIS flags at a scene of a frightful attack where a lot of people who were innocent, had nothing to do with either the IDF or the Israeli state, were murdered in cold blood. How do you respond to Mr. El Farah when he says
First of all,
go ahead.
Breaking news.
Yes.
The pictures of decapitated babies and burnt babies have been confirmed and shown to Secretary of State Anthony Blinken. So
yes.
It's a right
massive
lie.
lie. Just got it through.
I just got it through.
That's a big
lie. Okay, Mr. El Farah, please don't.
If your guests are going to shout, then I'm just going to. If your guests are going to shout and not,
I'll have to know your fader. Please don't speak over other guests. That's not fair. Please don't do that. Let other people speak.
My question to them is this. My question to them is this. Do they believe in a two-state solution, Israel side by side with a Palestine? That's what I want them to answer. Do they believe that Israel has a right to exist? That's what I want an answer.
Does Israel have a right to exist, Mr. El Farah? Do you believe in a two-state solution?
With which borders? You're talking to me as if you want to spin the facts. Does Israel have the right to kill thousands and thousands
I'm
of Palestinians?
I'm asking a much more basic question. Because if you do not recognize, you see, if you do not recognize my right to exist, then we can't have an argument. We cannot have a conversation if you do not recognize my right to exist. I recognize. I recognize. I believe.
Okay, let's just come back here. Let us silent Mr. El Farah, please. You cannot speak over other guests. That's not fair. Please let the deputy mayor have her 2 minutes. She asked you a question. You're not answering the question.
I believe in the self-determination of the Palestinian people, and I'm asking them a very simple question: do they believe in the self-determination of the Jewish people here?
Well, do you believe in the self-determination of the Jewish people, Mr. El Farah?
We are so used. These questions are so naive.
But answer them.
They don't work anymore.
Answer them.
If
they're so naive, answer them.
We have a true record of acceptance.
Okay, viewers, I want to show you a graphic plate. It tells you what the Hamas charter is. Al-Mushaira will not tell you this. I will show you the Hamas charter. It's on your screen. This is 1988 Hamas charter, not changed. It says Israel will exist and continue to exist until Islam will obliterate it, just as it obliterated others before it. This is the preface of the preamble of the Charter. Article 7 says the day of judgment will not come about until Muslims fight the Jews. When the Jews will hide behind stones
not
and
just
trees.
the ones here, all the Jews
Yes.
around the world.
And when they hide behind the stones and trees will say, "O Muslim, there is a Jew behind me, come and kill him," unquote. The Article 13 says initiatives and so-called peaceful solutions and international conferences are in contradiction to the principles of the Islamic resistance movement. So they don't believe in dialogue. There is no solution to the Palestinian question except by jihad. El Mushaira.
I tell you what the problem is. The
Hamas
problem is, and then I have to
a
leave.
long time ago. For your own
No, it's
research.
not a long time
Elfrena.
ago. They still believe it. Hezbollah believes it. Iran believes it. And all of the Syria believes it. And all of the genocidal Islamic fundamentalist countries believe it.
Let me
I have
tell
to
you.
leave in a second because it's my Sabbath very soon. But I want to leave you with this thought.
Yes, ma'am.
The problem of the conflict here is not because a Palestinian state doesn't exist. The problem of the conflict is because ideologically, the Palestinians have never accepted the existence of the Israel state. We have accepted that they should have a state by side by side. They still have not. And Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, ma'am, for joining us. Dr. Ranganathan, you were making a point. You were also holding up the mobile phone to the screen. What were you trying to say?
I was just saying that one of the dozens of lies that this Palestinian activist, so-called activists who would later on possibly do much worse than that, said was that Egypt and Gaza border is controlled by Israel is a complete lie. The Rafah crossing is controlled by Egypt. Only persons can come through. Cargo goes through Israel, but persons from Gaza is controlled by Egypt. This guy is a born liar. As he says, Hamas is not a terror organization. As he says, Hamas doesn't want Jews to be killed by Muslims. He's a born liar. That's the fact.
Well, the fact is, viewers, name calling has happened on this show. Unfortunate that we've come to this, but there are some people who are not willing to even admit the most basic facts. So we cannot have an reasonable argument when the Hamas Charter is so blithely Israelophobic.
Hamas Charter has been changed.
And it hasn't been changed, sir. Can you show me evidence that it has been changed? I can Google it right now for you. Don't lie. Do not lie. Please do not lie. I beg you, sir. Enough. I'll take a short break. I can't keep continuing with this.